My name is Andrew Hewson. I'm a senior bathroom designer at Dobsons. I won the Kbsa 2022 Bathroom Designer of the Year award. We entered the last couple of years, and this is the year that we're finalists, and yes, absolutely delighted, humbled and astonished really to have won. The client came to us with architect's plans for the house that they were buying. Although it was a lovely property, it was a little bit dated, and they wanted to shift things around. And the main focus, especially for this room, was to provide them with an ensuite bathroom. And it just so happened that the existing room they chose was a bedroom. The room was essentially gutted. We did have, and thankfully, a soil pipe. And because they were looking to renovate the surrounding rooms as well and extend up into the loft, we had the ability to bring all of the supply pipe work into the relevant positions. But the layout of the room was a little bit trickier in that we had to get all of the waste pipe work off to one corner, and the room was huge. It's probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, bathroom I've had to design. I think it was somewhere in the region of about 20 square meters. It had the problem of becoming quite cavernous. The architect had certainly done the obvious thing of putting everything into the corner and wrapping all the product around the room. And I felt it would have, if you were moving from the basin to the toilet or from the shower and bath to the toilet, and you'd be walking 15 steps to get anywhere. Their main priority, other than to get a bath, a shower, a toilet, and perhaps double basins, a large quantity of storage, was to try and counteract that feeling of too much space. The wall with the recess and the lighting around it, a starting point. The one way to bring the far wall closer to the door as you walk in, it provided the ability to hide the toilet, to become a break point and a focal point for the bath and make that the feature. And it also allowed us to initially raise a step for the wet area and for the toilet. Initially, when the architect's plans had no idea how we could get the toilet waste diagonally across the room into the far corner where the soil pipe was. And that was the reason why we'd added a step in. Also doing the utility room below, and because we had to lift up the entire floor, we found that actually we had the ability to get the waste in a completely different direction and get the shower and the toilet area completely flat to the rest of the room. So we had no step in the end. Where the shower was placed, there was a small window, and the last thing we wanted was for water to continually be hitting the inside of a window. So with the client's permission, we decided to remove that. They still had more than enough light coming through the main window, which was to the left of the bath. I guess the biggest issue we had to overcome was the ensuite from the room next door. When we'd taken part of the wall down in order to add stud work in, to bring pipe work up, we found that the soil pipe from the ensuite next door was actually running into the room and below the floor. So we couldn't simply attach all the furniture to the wall as we were hoping to do. We had to essentially build out the wall where the furniture was going to sit. And that gave us the ability to hide all of the basin pipe work that we were hoping to do anyway. But it actually still made a nice feature of the basin area. Space is easy enough to overcome. Design elements can help you achieve a very good layout. Having too much space is obviously clearly better than having nowhere near enough. In some instances, we were very lucky that there was additional pipe work hidden downstairs that enabled us to achieve an even better finished product than we had hoped for. From a design point of view, we were able to provide some balance to the room. The generous width of the room allowed us to have the double basins centered on one wall, and then running in parallel, we had the bath, then that division wall, that focus wall, and then behind that, we had the shower and the toilet on the opposite side, balancing everything out. And it was a dual entry, so you could enter from both sides, and everything is on the center point in the room. And it just so happens that we had enough space to do that. I think that really helps to finish off the overall design. There were a few things that I was debating on how best to sort of break up the space. In the end, the only thing I can think of was essentially to try and break the room down into sort of component parts to sort of, separate it out. And had the room been slightly slimmer, perhaps it may well have been a wall coming off from one side. Another design had been a half-height wall with a glass panel running up to the ceiling. But having discussed it with the clients, they were really very happy with that initial thought process. They liked the fact that it was full height, and it gave them that privacy, so that one of them actually could use the toilet whilst the other was brushing their teeth or lying in the bath. I tend to be perhaps more minimal in my approach, although having said that, I like to make the most of the space. Try to do away with small areas, recesses that are difficult to clean. Priority is always function and maintenance. Yes, whenever you're designing a space, you want to make sure that it's going to be not only functional on a day-to-day basis, but for every individual client, they will have their own needs, their own wants, and therefore it's making the most of that space for that particular client. And sometimes clients are likely to be in that home for 10, 15, 20 years, and it's looking ahead and trying as best as you possibly can to have an idea of how that person might use that space in 15 or 20 years' time. But the client themselves will have their own personal taste. And it's trying to maximize the information that I get from them at the beginning to ensure that the initial design follows something that they will be keen on to begin with. It's incredibly important for me to make sure that I understand what the client is after. Most of our clients come to us without any prior knowledge on bathroom products. A lot of our clients aren't necessarily sure about what they want to achieve or how to go about it. And it's being able to take that initial understanding they have and talk them through the process. That the layout of the room is by far and away the most important part of the design process. So spatial awareness is key. I think that's the main thing. Not someone who tends to follow of what is popular and what is likely to come next. Primarily because I don't want something to date. I try to, wherever possible, steer clear of fashion and focus purely on what a client loves.